Story 1. I have outgrown partying. There are many more things I want to achieve in life, and socializing was just slowing me down. Additionally, as I get older, it takes longer to recover. I no longer have that kind of time. Story 2. I quit drinking 2 years ago. The phone stopped ringing, and the invites stopped coming. When I did go out, it was annoying being around drunk people, so I just stopped partying and going to bars altogether. It was the best decision I've ever made. Story 3. It became tedious watching everyone drink and pretend to be someone else. Uninteresting and predictable. Story 4. I love my house. I have worked hard to get to where I am now. I am living in the neighborhood I dreamed about for a decade. I enjoy my yard and letting my 3 cats have supervised outdoor time. I love spending time in my kitchen with the windows open, where I can look out at my garden and see my cats playing in their tent in the sun. While doing this, I relax and cook for myself and my partner. I am nesting and I love it. Story 5. Jail, blackouts, lost friends, terrible relationships, money problems, lost jobs, missed opportunities, physical pain, and addiction. It's been 36 years now, no drugs, no alcohol. I live much better sober and clean. I got sober at 26 years old. I'm 62 now. The best thing I ever did for myself. Story 6. Well, it almost killed me 2 or 3 times. Once, I hallucinated and thought I had accidentally killed someone. Then, after I started working, I stayed out until 2 a.m. with some college friends. I got only 4 hours of sleep, took my hungover self to work, and they sat us in a warm room, turned off the lights, and showed a boring presentation. I had to stay awake because the CEO was watching. At that point, I decided it was long past time to grow up. Story 7. Working in a bar and observing how awful drunk people look and act. I was never one for getting drunk, just a bit tipsy. However, witnessing these behaviors regularly really puts you off. Story 8. Resentment simmered and ignited when fueled by alcohol. I experienced too many episodes of hurting those I care about. I lost patience with those who continued to partake excessively. Life is too short to waste in the company of intoxicated individuals. Story 9. Getting drunk with people who don't really care about you. Waking up in strangers' bathtubs. Throwing up. Partying and having fun aren't what they used to be when you realize people are just trying to drown out their own feelings. They don't care who you are. Story 10. I allocate most of my discretionary income to travel, which means cutting out nearly all parties when I am home. I hardly remember the details of those parties and do not find them fulfilling. However, travel? I remember those experiences much more vividly and find them significantly more fulfilling. Story 11. I got older. Yes, the music is too loud. No, I don't want to drink because it takes me 3 days to feel better. Drugs cost money that I need for food and rent. People around me are frustrating, and I dislike them. Story 12. I still party, but I don't drink alcohol anymore. Turns out you can enjoy all the same activities without it and still have fun. Story 13. Well, I'm in my 30s and went clubbing for the first time. I had a guy grab my arm to drag me to dance, and another attempted to kiss me. I said no, and my friend started confronting him. Eventually, he only left after my group threatened him. 2 more guys asked for my number for later, and I gave them fake numbers just to defuse the situation. I didn't even have a chance to enjoy myself. I was at gay bars as a straight woman. I'm fine. I can safely have a good time at home with friends, dance, and do karaoke without being harassed. Story 14. Living with an alcoholic husband, with whom I once partied hard, made me realize we were both out of control. Now, after 6 years of sobriety, I am getting a divorce. Story 15. Alcohol causes cancer, weight gain, joint pain, and poor mental health. Not being able to hear people speak in a loud environment was also unpleasant, and staying out late affected my work. Story 16. Because I'm an adult. I take my LSD at 9 a.m. on my days off, trip while I mow the lawn, clean the house, and do other chores. I sober up by dinner, have a glass or 3 of wine, cook dinner, and I'm in bed by 10 p.m. Story 17. I never liked drinking, but I binged until I ended the night throwing up. It was a lifestyle of doing things I never thought I would do for 10 to 12 years. After two driving under the influence incidents later, it became expensive and disrupted my life. It was time to grow up. I had a baby who needed me, and it couldn't be done with a hangover. I saw many people die young from partying too hard. It wasn't fun when it became a nightmare. Traveling sober is much more enjoyable and entertaining. Story 18. I can't make drinking make sense anymore. Hangovers are difficult. Alcohol is expensive for a short-term buzz. Usually, some problems arise that are challenging to manage while intoxicated. You can't drive while drunk. I'm also curious if alcohol, cigarettes, and other vices have been damaging human DNA for so long and contribute to birth defects and developmental abnormalities. Story 19. The realization that it is a form of chasing something that never lives up to its promises is just an empty waste of time, often enhanced with alcohol to deceive oneself into thinking something enjoyable is happening. I would prefer a cuddly girl on a comfy couch, as it makes me much happier at the moment and the next day too. Story 20. Eventually, it becomes dull. You've experienced everything, and the parties blur into a single memory. I couldn't recall one specific event if my life depended on it. However, it was very enjoyable while it lasted. Story 21. The aging of the body from consuming toxic alcohol is not worth the temporary high. Lack of sleep is detrimental to both mental and physical health. People acting with lowered inhibitions can lead to disastrous outcomes, such as fights, arguments, and unsafe or unhygienic behaviors that create drama and problems. I will prioritize my rest, health, and peace. Story 22. I woke up one morning feeling awful and was thankful I didn't have to go to work. I realized I was drinking more and more, and I didn't like who I was becoming. I was worried about where it was taking me. I stopped drinking and partying that day. Since then, I've only had 2 drinks. One at a friend's house not long after, a shot of something I just had to try, and a glass of champagne at my wedding. I don't regret it one bit. Story 23. Losing or breaking my cell phone, losing my wallet, my keys, sometimes my clothes, spending money on expensive drinks, getting arrested, and fighting, and most importantly, my child. Story 24. My friends started having children and stopped throwing parties. Going to bars changed from always running into people you know to not knowing anyone. Story 25. As I got older, recovery took longer. Now my hangovers last several days. Even just having 1 to 2 drinks is enough to knock me out for the next 2 days. Story 26. It just stopped being fun. Once you're in the scene for a while, you realize it's the same people making the same jokes, and you're just wasting money and time. In short, it became boring. Story 27. I was an introvert who forced myself to go to parties. I would worry all day about how horrible it would be, but it never really was. I had tons of fun, but I would drink so heavily that I lost control. As I grew older, I decided I would rather hang out alone and not get drunk. Story 28. I hit rock bottom and finally realized that if I didn't stop, I would destroy my marriage and harm my children. Just 1 drink is all it would have taken. I have been drug-free and alcohol-free for 30 years as of this past February. I have 5 children and am married to the greatest woman in the world. Life is good. Story 29. I would rather enjoy my time doing fun, meaningful activities than just getting wasted to be around a group of mostly degenerate strangers. I grew up. Just try being sober at a party, and you'll realize that being around a group of intoxicated individuals is obnoxious. Story 30. I realized I needed to get my act together quickly in a world where you need money urgently. Story 31. Partying often involves drinking, which can drain one's strength and motivation. I would prefer to go hiking and become stronger. Alcohol can hinder people from being their best selves. Story 32. Honestly, nothing extreme. I simply outgrew it. It was enjoyable while it lasted, but the celebration cannot continue indefinitely. Story 33. It always felt shallow. No real lasting connections were made. Plus, I don't drink. I would rather go to the gym or work on music, which is much more satisfying. Story 34. Personally, I've never liked it. I'd rather be at the beach, the pool, the gym, or the spa. There are better things. Story 35. Things became increasingly difficult and stopped being enjoyable. People acted strangely and inappropriately. Suddenly, the situations I found myself in became more dangerous and unpleasant, with criminal activities occurring around me. I decided I had enough and chose to start over. I had a great time, didn't develop any addictions, and exited without an arrest record or any unintended responsibilities. In my view, that's a successful way to navigate your 20s. Story 36. My mind didn't change. I just got older and I am not able to recover as I did in my younger years. We took some visitors downtown Nashville last weekend, starting at noon and coming home at midnight. Between nicotine pouches, bourbon, and beer, the next day felt like I had died and gone to hell. By 11 p.m., I had consumed nachos, flatbread pizza, and enough bourbon to incapacitate a small country. Sunday was rough. Story 37. I found substances I enjoyed more than alcohol. Then I sort of grew out of that. Not that I don't miss it from time to time, but I probably just miss being 20 years younger. Story 38. Waking up hungover and spending a lot of money, I find myself in situations where people aren't talking with each other but rather talking at each other. I still go to parties, but the crowd and environment are not the same as my University of Wisconsin-Madison college days with beer bombs off the balcony. Story 39. Maturity involves having a career and taking on responsibility. I still have fun with barbecues, but I no longer drink much and do not use drugs. Story 40. Eventually, partying consumed too much of the little money I had for rent and bills. Recovery from each party took longer, and I realized that while this was temporary for me, everyone else around me was at their peak. I would move on to a better job, a better place to live, and progress in my life while they would still be living at home, partying, using drugs, and drinking, lucky if they kept their current jobs. Story 41. Being tie-tie all the time and loving sleep. I started getting 8 hours of sleep at festivals and realized how much more fun I was having. Then, I stopped going altogether and replaced it with being active in nature. Almost every day when I get home from work, I think to myself, I should wind down and have a beer. Then I start drinking water and working around the house. I typically completely forget about my plan for beer. Story 42. Vanity. I was always the it girl, but I realized I was starting to age. I wanted to leave being cool before a younger person pointed out my age or before I became a joke. Story 43. I never enjoyed it to begin with, and the people around me stopped doing it, so I no longer had to pretend that I liked it. Story 44. I have better things to spend my money on or save for. I mostly quit drinking and am taking better care of my body. I found hobbies that are more fulfilling than frequent nights out. Many party friend groups can be unpredictable and unreliable, even if you think they have your back. You don't notice it when you're in the situation. Using mushrooms privately at home a few times a year is satisfying. Story 45. I never truly enjoyed it but pretended to because I thought I was supposed to. Then I realized I do not have to waste my life doing things I dislike with people I dislike. That was a significant revelation. I have not attended any parties since and do not feel like I am missing out at all. Story 46. I'm old and tired. I don't even want to hang out after 5, let alone get dressed up and go to a party. So exhausting. I don't even know how I used to do it. Story 47. The party never stops, but it's just my wife and me now in our room. Every day is a celebration if you find the right person. Story 48. I realized it was unwise to spend money on something temporary that left me feeling bad afterward. Story 49. After a while, it's just the same thing repeatedly. Add in some regrettable decision-making and ruined days, and it just gets old. Story 50. I was very skilled at it. 1 drink was too many and 100 was not enough. I still smoke on occasion but no longer drink. Story 51. It is not satisfying. There are much better and more fulfilling things for me to do with my time and energy. Once I realized that the party phase was leading me nowhere and actually towards addiction and criminal offenses, it was easy to step away. I still miss my rowdy days sometimes, but I will never regret moving forward, rather than staying stuck in the abyss of partying and addiction. Story 52. I realized a lot of the partying I did was actually an attempt to fill an empty void in me or keep me from feeling lonely or dead inside. I found ways to fill my time meaningfully with people who cared about me. Additionally, it felt like a waste of time and money. Now, I don't have time to party because I am actually engaged in activities. That's not to say I don't go to parties, but they aren't the kind of events where I get trashed to feel alive. They are just light drinking, board games, pinball, puzzles, and Jackbox game nights with friends and family. Story 53. I truly can't identify the change. I'm 38, and until I was 26, I was partying 3 times a week heavily. After that, I never went to a club again. The last time I partied hard was for my 26th birthday, which was 12 years ago. Nothing significant happened. I just didn't realize it would be the last time. Suddenly, I lost interest. Now, my definition of a good night is watching a movie with my husband and going to bed by 10 with a book. I couldn't be bothered with the noise and the crowds again, even though I used to love it. Story 54. The recovery was not worth it. I drank from age 15 to 45. I figured that was enough and quit 9 years ago. I have zero regrets. My life is so much simpler now. I do not count drinks, I do not watch the clock, and I do not worry if I will get sick or do something stupid. There are no hangovers and no planning for the next party. I think people my age who still get drunk every weekend are strange. It is a significant waste of time and money. Estimating $100 saved each week by not drinking, I have saved $47,000 in 9 years. That is a conservative estimate. I am the group's designated driver and historian because I am the only one who remembers what happened last night. Story 55. Knowing that if I continued, I would probably be dead by now. I quit, and 10 days later I found out I was going to be a father. I have been sober for 26 years now. Story 56. Combination of feeling repetitive and boring, even with all the support, and having less time as I transitioned into adulthood with a real job and later even more so with children. By the time the children arrived, I was somewhat over the whole scene and was too tired by Friday night to do anything crazy. I usually prefer to relax at home and spend time with my wife or, at most, have a few beers with my friends in the early evening and return home early. Story 57. When you mention a party, do you mean drinking or staying up late? I still drink occasionally, and I only stay up late when insomnia strikes. What changed my perspective was that I initially drank to tolerate the people around me. Once the hangovers became unbearable, I realized I didn't enjoy their company. I dislike loud noises. My ideal party involves inviting people over for tea, crafts, or watching a television show together. I've never hosted an introvert party, but I am definitely looking forward to it. Story 58. I cannot tolerate intoxicated individuals, and I sincerely cannot tolerate myself either. At a certain point, it is no longer amusing. Drama occurs and someone behaves arrogantly. I may still have a drink or two, but a 12-pack now lasts me approximately 2 weeks. Story 59. The people at the parties, especially as you get older, cling to youth instead of looking forward, which is extremely depressing. Story 60. Nothing changed my mind. It was a mix of the realization of how much money and time I spent on drinking, along with the fact that everyone I partied with, including myself, moved away or got married and had children. Story 61. Nothing drastic, really. I just got bored of it eventually. I started partying when I was 15, and by my mid-20s I was already done. Story 62. I woke up in the middle of a blackout to someone on top of me, and though I considered it rape, my friends don't, because they think it was my fault for getting blackout drunk. I struggle with it. Some days I agree with them, some days I feel I know it was rape, and other days I wonder if he was super drunk too. I don't know because I ran out of that room as soon as I came to. Anyway, I definitely don't drink like that anymore. Story 63. I am now 42 years old and have decided to go back to school to study physiotherapy. I also work and train a lot. Since hangovers could last several days for me and often made me feel unwell after just a beer or two, I realized I no longer had the margin for that. There is too much else going on, and I need my brain and body functioning at 100%. So I quit drinking completely. I still love going to concerts, though. Now that I am older, I do not care as much about what others think, so I dance and have fun without needing to be drunk. Story 64. People have gotten older, and the younger crowd today is constantly on their phones and not fully present, making parties feel too restrained. They aren't letting loose like we did in the 1990s, 2000s, and 2010s. It just feels boring now. The best gatherings are now at my friends' homes, with their custom sound systems, homemade craft beer, premium liquor, and quality cannabis, while our partners enjoy the evening and the grandparents watch the children. We also start with lunch and wrap up around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the latest midnight so we can still function the next day. Story 65. I am an introvert. Yes, I attended my share of parties, sorority mixers, and similar events in my day, but they were never enjoyable for me. I dislike crowds, so small get-togethers suit me better. Story 66. Age and recovery took longer than expected, making it feel like the effort wasn't worth it. I am still very glad I had those years of clubbing, going out 4 nights a week. Story 67. I realized that everyone who parties, including my past self, uses it as a way to escape their reality. I actually like my reality now. Story 68. Acting foolishly and feeling unwell the next day has dampened my enthusiasm, but I am not a quitter. Story 69. I came back to the United States. Partying in Europe is a great time, and people are there to have a good time. In the United States, too many people are there to show off and be seen. Story 70. I will surely die one day, and I don't want it to be painful or traumatic for my loved ones, or too soon. I desire some indulgence, but ultimately I do not want my time to be cut short. Story 71. Spending over $50 to $80 a night on drinks and food was a regular occurrence for me. I wasn't a party person every weekend, but I did it often enough. I also developed several health issues that I'm still trying to resolve, so the nightlife no longer appeals to me. I do miss having the desire sometimes, but I don't miss feeling terrible. I can't count how many times I've been hungover at work, thinking to myself, I'll just drink water tonight and tomorrow will be fine. Unfortunately, that never worked for me. Story 72. Once I reached my late 20s and early 30s, and hangovers began lasting 3 to 4 days, I realized it just wasn't worth it anymore. Story 73. It just wasn't fun anymore. Hangovers got worse. I did it to be social and meet people because I am awkward when sober, but then I met my husband, who has to be sober due to being on parole. Now, I have no need to meet people in that way. Story 74. Most of my friends from college got married and had children or moved away. Now in our 30s, we don't have the energy for much besides sitting around a bonfire and chatting. Story 75. When I visited Paisley Park, Prince told me, "Don't bother knocking on my door." I guess he knew I wasn't coming to party. Still, I don't. Story 76. I have seen too many bad incidents. Some were minor, where someone couldn't take no for an answer when hitting on a female friend. Others were more startling, like receiving a call from a hospital because friends had too much to drink or consumed many edible brownies. A common story in Colorado. My final straw was when I realized I had to be presentable, pay to enter a club, look for someone I liked, dance, and buy them drinks only to discover they had boyfriends or were enjoying their time being single, whatever that means. What a complete waste of time and money. No thank you. I still go to a bar every once in a while, but no more clubs for me. Story 77. Being tired of being sick and tired. The same meaningless conversations. Waking up feeling terrible. I have been so much happier since I got sober 37 years ago. Story 78. Many of these comments discuss hangovers, which can be confusing. While many people drink at parties, it is not essential and certainly not necessary to overindulge to the point of experiencing hangovers. I have attended parties at least weekly for many years and have not reached that point. Additionally, some of the best parties do not even include alcohol. People should consider exploring psychedelics instead. Story 79. I can't because I have 2 children. I still try, but even then it's much more relaxed. I am not able to handle alcohol as well now and don't have the urge to use drugs anymore. Sounds fun in theory, but what I really want to do is just dance. Story 80. It just became boring. It used to be that we would all have a good time and interesting events would occur, but after a while, those events either stopped happening or just weren't interesting anymore. As I got older, and since much of the interesting activities involved being irresponsible or unkind, they stopped feeling enjoyable. Then there were the friend groups that fell into addiction, and those gatherings became dark. Essentially, the gatherings turned into a situation where a group of people were huddled in corners, trying to take as many drugs as they could while barely communicating with one another. Thankfully, most of them are sober these days, which means they avoid those types of gatherings as much as possible. Story 81. I became tired of seeing my partner get heavily intoxicated. I stopped drinking, but he did not and likely will not, so I generally avoid any social gatherings he and his friends have. Additionally, I feel like I do not belong with his group. He says his friends are my friends, but I do not think so. I do not know these people and never have until recently. They only feel obligated to socialize with me because I am dating him, but I do not know how to connect with people I do not already know. I stopped talking to all my old closest friends, have not spoken in years, and do not want to. I have become extremely withdrawn. I have retreated so far into myself that I have lost all sense of joy in life. I do not want to party and have fun. I just want to stay busy with work or do nothing if I cannot be busy. Story 82. It happened naturally, to be honest. I fell in love with treating my body well through working out, waking up early, and other healthy habits, which made going out less appealing. Story 83. I didn't like my drinking friends, who were racist, mean, and bitter, so I stopped going out with them. They still ask me to join because I was with them for a long time and I am a kind person, but now I always say, I'm busy. Story 84. Growing up trapped in a house with an obnoxious party animal every weekend until 6 a.m. The collective screams were so loud that the cats would be scared. Yes, Project X was the best thing ever. Let's make it our life. Now, I just can't stand people when I drink. The best I can do 15 years later is finally learn to enjoy alcohol for myself. Story 85. I haven't changed my mind. I moved to a conservative area. There are no parties to attend. I don't even want to drink or use drugs. I just miss the excitement of raves. Story 86. What? I never stopped celebrating. I just stopped celebrating with other people because of my personal choice. Story 87. I am halfway through my 40s. The excitement diminishes as the hangover increases. I gave it up long ago. Story 88. I have moved so many times that I never built back my friend circles. I just have no one to party with. Meanwhile, I have gotten older and it is no longer fun. Story 89. Hindi naman, nagbago na ang isip ko, mas nakatuon ako sa mga prioridad. Gusto ko pa rin magpapaart na parang alang bukas, pero hindi na ito ang aking pangunahing kailangan ngayon. Story 90. I started investing. You begin to realize how fiscally irresponsible it is, and the inevitable drama gets old. I would prefer to drink at home with good company and no complications. Story 91. I turned 30, decided to settle down, and honestly, that life seems unappealing to me now. I'm not saying I didn't have fun then, but I'm over it. Getting into a committed relationship probably had something to do with it too. No regrets. Story 92. I grew weary of missing daytime opportunities due to recovering from the night before. Story 93. I haven't partied in around 7 months. I drank so much that I blacked out. When I came to, I went through 48 hours of intense anxiety, feeling as though I had actually died and entered a different universe where I was alive. It was very scary, and I realized that while I wasn't a frequent partier, I was out of control when I did drink. It's not worth it anymore. Story 94. It's easier to play solo because you don't have to schedule with others and keep all your quests in sync. Story 95. The downside of getting older is that you no longer have the energy to party. The upside is that you no longer want to. Story 96. I came home from an overnight trip in Atlantic City still hungover. I basically slept 14 to 16 hours, woke up still feeling terrible and nauseous. I lost a significant amount of money from gambling, buying expensive drinks, and smoking a lot of cigarettes. I just remember being hunched over the toilet, feeling frustrated. Then I stopped, tired of feeling bad, dealing with untrustworthy people in clubs and bars, wasting money, and damaging my health. I quit smoking, essentially quit drinking, and lost 90 pounds over the next year. I'm much happier now. I feel bad saying it, but it helped a bit that the world locked down a couple of months after I started. Kept me on track and helped me focus on my goals. I had my fun, but I don't miss it. Story 97. Realizing that I can't just party and then stop. It has to turn into a whole lifestyle and then hard drugs come in. I'm just over it. I'm choosing life. Story 98. I used to party at least 4 nights a week. Now it's just the occasional outing and I drink much less. I couldn't work and be hungover. I discovered new interests such as cooking and cycling, and I need to make time for those. Story 99. The music isn't the same. I'm not saying music today is bad. I just don't connect with it anymore, especially in a party context. I used to really feel the music and felt like I could become a part of it during festivals and shows. Now it feels like I'm present, but nothing is reaching me. And no, I'm not depressed. I feel plenty of emotions from other music, just not the party kind anymore. Story 100, it just stopped being enjoyable. It felt less like a way to relax and more like something that would take days to recover from. It became a waste of money and time. Story 101. What do you mean by party? I no longer do cocaine or engage with loose women. I can still outdrink you, though. Do I still party? Story 102. The money I saved by not going to bars or festivals helped me buy a vacation home in Italy. I prefer that to getting drunk and feeling unwell. Story 103. As an introvert, I would much rather sit on my deck with 1 or 2 of my best friends enjoying my whiskey and vodka collection until the last one of us passes out around 4 a.m. Story 104. I spent around 20 years going out to bars, clubs, and shows, and I worked at many popular places in my city. I organized events and parties that attracted hundreds of attendees, many of whom I knew. I hosted a birthday party at a club that filled the venue with about 200 people. I was familiar with influential individuals and attended many significant events. I enjoyed complimentary drinks almost everywhere. After leaving for a year for a job I couldn't refuse, I noticed that almost nobody stayed in contact. Only a few people I knew before or those who were friends outside of the social scene reached out. I realized that while it was fun, it was ultimately a waste of time. I had no genuine connection with the hundreds of people I met. Our relationships were transactional and lacked meaning. In the past 13 years, I have gone out to a bar or restaurant maybe 6 to 10 times at most. I might not have as many connections, but I have a few great friendships and require far less money to live. Story 105. I am very tired of people. Drama, gossip, and caring. All of it. Even if I don't talk to anyone or enter a relationship, I still have to interact with people at school or work. It's exhausting. The cost of 2 drinks at a bar is enough for an entire bottle that I could sip on for a month. The music is too loud. There are too many people, and I am just looking for others who share my hobbies. Story 106. As I earned more money, I bought a nicer bed and realized that enjoying quality drinks at home, along with music I liked and video games, became more appealing. As I grew older, a loud club with expensive drinks no longer seemed fun, especially since I had work in the morning. Story 107. Have you ever gone to bed at 9:30 and woken up at 6 o'clock feeling refreshed and ready to go? It's one of the best feelings. Once you discover it, you'll chase it like a high. Story 108. I never had a hangover until after turning 30. The worst part is that on the day it happened, I didn't even feel a buzz. I was just casually enjoying Coronas on a hot day. Story 109. The friend group I party with were great people at 16, but when we started turning 20 and they remained mentally the same, I stopped wanting to be around them. Story 110. Turning 30 often means enduring physical challenges for days after a night of partying, which is typically the best outcome. Many of us have witnessed friends or family members allowing partying to take over their lives, resulting in serious consequences, including substance abuse and related issues. Story 111. It wasn't as fun as it used to be. I started focusing more on personal growth and spending time on things that truly made me feel good, such as my health and relationships. Story 112. I have seen the landscape, utility lines, concrete barriers, and buildings change too many mornings after too many holidays. I saw a car wrapped around a tree when I left work at 2 a.m. No thanks. Off limits. Story 113. It was never enjoyable. I don't have friends. I dislike my behavior while drinking and the behavior of others. It's costly. Beer bellies are undesirable. Feeling terrible the next day. Emotional avoidance. Superficial connections. The lifestyle of boasting about getting wasted the night before as if it were a badge of honor. Claiming to forget one's actions or making jokes about them is not amusing. No thanks to all of that. Story 114. I finally realized that alcohol makes me very depressed. Being the designated driver became more of a curse than a way to still spend time with people I now realize are incredibly annoying when their inhibitions are lowered. I never got into marijuana or the other popular drugs of the time. Story 115. For me, I mainly enjoyed socializing during my college years. I still went out occasionally in the first couple of years after graduating, but as I became more focused on starting my career, it happened less frequently. Now, I can't remember the last time I truly socialized. I have no interest in that anymore. I will treasure my memories of those college days. Story 116. There is no reason to do that. I can go to parties without drinking alcohol. I have done everything sober since 1997. It does not make me or anyone else smarter, funnier, or elevated in any way. Story 117. The pandemic had a significant impact on socializing for me. It divided many people's lives, so even after things opened up again, many friends didn't reconnect. Friend groups shrank to those closest to us, and the idea of gathering with large groups of unfamiliar people lost its appeal. Additionally, I began working out more often, and the next day feels like a setback after a night of heavy drinking, which isn't ideal. Story 118. Nothing bad happened. I frequently used drugs in the military before they implemented drug testing, spending time with friends in the barracks. Shortly after I got out, I met my future wife, who is very straight-laced and dislikes any mind-altering substances. I settled into a quiet lifestyle and have never liked being in bars. I still don't. Story 119. I became more focused on self-control, and being out of control due to alcohol or various drugs just didn't sit well with me. I might still attend parties occasionally, but you won't find me consuming more than 2 drinks throughout the entire night. Story 120. Recovery started taking too long, and I need a mild recovery even after just a couple of beers without feeling tipsy. It feels like there is no reward and only punishment. I was always the enthusiastic night out since the age of 17 until 32, and that is when it started to decline. I enjoyed my 15 years in the bars. Unfortunately, I can't say I came away unscathed. Those years aged me more than they should have, and I regret that. Story 121. Dealing with people is not my preference. I would rather be at home alone, enjoying the comforts of my surroundings. I do not feel the need to make social connections or seek validation from others. Story 122. I believe my perspective has shifted. My valuation of time and how I utilize it has transformed. It required significant financial investment and extensive planning. Enduring the complications of others became tiresome. I dislike feeling exhausted and unclear just to revisit the same experiences. It seemed like something that was anticipated and promoted, but eventually, I stopped caring about what others thought I should be doing. I simply wanted to focus on my own desires. Story 123. The amount of money I spent on partying every single day from ages 21 to 28 could have bought 2 houses. I still go to the bar with friends for a couple of drinks or have a few drinks at home. However, spending $1,000 on drinks and other things every night, while getting only 1 hour of sleep before work, is long behind me. Story 124. I still drink, but I don't get drunk. Life is beautiful and I don't want to waste it on things that make me feel bad. Story 125. I never really enjoyed it. I participated in high school because it was what everyone did, and it was an opportunity to spend time with my friends. Once I moved away after high school, I never felt the urge to engage in it again. Story 126. I like to tell myself I still have it, but I don't. I can't really pinpoint a moment. I just stopped along the way. Story 127. Mushrooms. I realized that when I was using alcohol, I was poisoning my body. I haven't drank or felt any motivation to drink in a year. Story 128. It is very expensive. People are spending easily $300 to $400 a month when they go out to party every weekend. Story 129. I saw it all, felt it all, and had it all. It is difficult to have a serious discussion with a 100 decibel kick bass in the background. Story 130. Unselfishly quit to benefit humanity. Otherwise, there would be no drugs or alcohol left for future generations. Story 131. I was a go-go dancer in Los Angeles and at the Electric Daisy Carnival raves from the ages of 19 to 25. I did it all sober almost every weekend. Partying gets boring when it's your job. Story 132. I got tired of being the source of entertainment. I need a break sometimes. I always played the jester role, and if I was having an off day, people would ask, "What's wrong? You aren't being yourself." If I wasn't funny, the response was, "Off with his head." Story 133. I realized I was pursuing people who liked me only because I provided drinks. I found new friends who appreciate my presence, regardless of the setting. I have outgrown that previous friend group. Story 134. I came home from a night of drinking at around 5 a.m. and walked past my gym. The lights were on and people were working out. I thought, oh wow, my gym is open 24 hours now. In my stupor, I realized they had just opened, and this was everyone's morning. As I peered through the window, a muscular man was doing floor calisthenics, saw me and came up to the window and mouthed, "Let's go." I felt like such a mess. I still drink occasionally, but nothing like before. That was definitely a life-changing moment. Story 135. Recovery time increased, and I found that after turning 21, partying lost its appeal since I could drink whenever I wanted. Now I occasionally enjoy fancy cocktails or make them myself. Story 136. It happened organically. I got married in 2019 and had just started a new job that had me working night shifts with weekdays off. I couldn't attend any more parties or gatherings because I was working, but my wife started going and acting as my representative. I began my current career path, which also involved swing shifts with weekdays off. After about 3 years, 98% of my friend group basically stopped talking to me, not maliciously, but because it was easier to ask my wife than to try to reach me. During that time, I went through some personal challenges and had to deal with my own issues, which led me to get sober. Basically, I got older and my priorities shifted. To be fair, I would rather be boring than go out and do something I don't want to do. Story 137. The one time I attended a typical party, I went to escort a female friend away from an unwanted advance, and that experience was enough to show me that such gatherings were not for me. Story 138. Much of the friendship was actually with alcohol, not with people. I did not realize that at the time. Story 139. I didn't party much when I was younger. I was a bit of an introvert. When I turned 30, I decided to go out and experience new things to see if I had missed anything. I realized I had not. Now that I am 40, I spend my money and time on travel, food, and cocktail bars or beer halls with friends, not clubs with random strangers. Story 140. I have no friends, and going out alone has become really scary as a transgender woman. There has been a lot of sexual harassment and frightening nights walking alone while clutching my pepper spray. I no longer drink either. Story 141. Seeing people in their 40s going out and getting drunk every weekend is concerning. There must be better ways to have fun without drinking. It's also important to recognize that good company is rarely found when people are intoxicated. Additionally, the cost of drinks and concert tickets has become quite high. Story 142. Partying is just borrowing tomorrow's happiness. You can double your fun for the night, but you will have used it all up by the time the sun rises. Story 143. fatty liver at 32, physical hangovers lasting 2 days and mental hangovers lasting almost a week. I desire to remember my weekends. Story 144. I had a lot of fun and many friends who enjoyed partying. However, it became less enjoyable over time. Some friends became excessively involved in partying, and we grew apart. I made new friends and entered a different stage of life. I realized I couldn't handle little kids and a hangover simultaneously. As I've gotten older, my body doesn't process alcohol the same way. The buzz is less enjoyable, and the recovery takes longer. Story 145. As I aged, hangovers began lasting longer than a day, making it feel not worth it anymore. I also started experiencing longer periods of lost time while still appearing coherent and relatively normal, but I couldn't recall those moments. It wasn't that my memory was hazy. It simply wasn't there at all. Additionally, the experience becomes less enjoyable the more frequently it happens. Starts to feel a bit old. Story 146. I began to cherish mornings, enjoying coffee while planning what I would do with my girlfriend, now my wife, on our Saturday. It just wasn't aligned with the lifestyle I want to live, and I love the feeling of slow progress more than the fleeting happiness of immediate gratification. Story 147. I prefer to drink at home because it is much cheaper. I can play Xbox, eat snacks, watch videos, and go to bed whenever I want. I am also quite introverted and enjoy spending time alone. Story 148. I like going to the gym at night. I have a lot of upper body strength now, and that is better. Going to the gym is cheaper than drinking, so it's a win-win. Story 149. At some point, I realized people only invited me out to parties so they would have a designated driver, which meant no alcohol for me. Story 150. Drunk friends can be extremely annoying and needy. There are other things I would rather be doing than sitting on someone's boat, in their house, or in their backyard for 3 to 4 hours. Story 151. The hangover just keeps getting worse unless you party every night. It gets so bad that one night of partying can cost me the entire next day and a half just to be able to leave the dark bathroom that has become my bedroom for the last 36 hours. Story 152. The lack of capacity for healthy interpersonal relationships for people who drink excessively has made me reconsider my own choices. Story 153. I became tired of seeing people I knew, including some I once loved, end up with driving under the influence charges, in prison, overdosed, or dead by suicide. Most of this was directly tied to their substance abuse, and it honestly is not worth it. Now I stay home and enjoy edibles, and I am at peace with it. Story 154. It just gets boring. The same conversations and the same drama. I enjoy my drama-free zone with my wife, reading and laughing at other people's drama, knowing it doesn't really matter. Story 155. I grew up, got married, had children, got divorced, and raised them mostly alone. I finally remarried and now have a few grandchildren. About 25 years passed without talking to a close friend from my teens. We reconnected through social media and started discussing the possibility of getting together. They suggested renting a motel room and using various substances like we used to. The thought instantly made my stomach knot. I can't remember much of the conversation after that. Nothing happened and we did not meet up. A few years later, we briefly chatted on social media again, and they mentioned they had suffered a stroke. They were in their mid-40s at that time, which is quite young for a stroke. I don't know if it had anything to do with substance abuse, but I felt grateful for that strange feeling that made me want to run away. Story 156. I only partied to put myself in the vicinity of women, to get phone numbers, to flirt, and to potentially engage in intimate relationships. I was very successful and had many connections. However, after 10 to 15 years, I realized I had absolutely nothing to show for all the partying. All those people I hung out with, flirted with, or dated are gone and have moved on. We never really had anything in common except a youthful zest for being around others who were partying. Looking back, I realized there was no substance, just alcohol and music bringing people together for momentary bliss. As you get older, it becomes clear that that environment is great for meeting new people and forgetting life's problems for a night or two, but priorities shift toward more meaningful moments of substance. Today, I would much prefer to sit by a window in a library with a coffee and a book alongside someone important to me. Maybe an occasional small get-together at a friend's house, where everyone is enjoying something nice, but just relaxing and conversing rather than bouncing around and shouting over music everyone has heard countless times. The type of environment that fosters long-term interactions and conversations becomes much more appealing than the party scene, where people come and go and forget everything the next morning or next week. Story 157. I am 25 years old. I have never been invited to parties and have never been drunk. I am more than happy living a life filled with animals. Story 158. I am not a morning person. It is difficult for me to stay up until 2 a.m. and then wake up 2 hours later because my body wants to stick to its usual routine. I also tend to shout at people when I am intoxicated, and I would easily end up $400 lighter. I just cannot afford to keep doing that. Story 159. It is exhausting. I used to DJ for a local rap group, and we were constantly doing shows, which meant we had after parties in addition to weekly house parties. We would start partying either after the show or around 9 p.m., and we would not be done until 10 a.m. Doing this 3 to 5 times a week was draining, and waking up in the morning or going straight to work afterward was awful. It is physically and emotionally exhausting. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.